Let's give her a hand. I don't think we're done with the song yet, so before Lacey drifts off and before everybody disappears on me, I'm going to invite Deanna up just again for just a moment. And I want to know how we're listening to this song. Because as we started to listen to the song, she's like, what is he going to ask me to do? Is I just go from wherever the let's hold hands part. And now I want you to adjust your listening, as this is the presence invitation to you.
So let's hold hands.
So all of eternity is calling you forward.
Like the 5 years old again, run hard first into the ocean.
Close your eyes and listen again, the same thing.
So let's hold hands.
God is asking you to hold its hand.
Like the 5 years old again, run hard.
God is asking you to have the faith to run hard.
Into the ocean.
One more time, same thing.
So let's hold hands. Like the 5 years old again, run hard
All right, we're going to do it again. And I see some of you out there starting to sing. Everyone sing it this time, but now hold your neighbor's hand, because those are the hands of God.
Like the 5 years.
Yeah, let me hear you sing. Let me hear you sing.
Run hard first into the ocean.
So that's the place where we're going to start. Thank you, Deanna. We're going to start right there. Because sometimes when we hear a beautiful song, especially when we hear these amazing things, we miss the thing that creation was bringing forth when it invited the writer, in this case Deanna, the composer, the musicians that she gathered with, in order to birth something into existence. Doesn't it feel a little different now? So I thank you for honoring that, and I thank you for honoring the gifts that Deanna brought forth, and now we're ready. We're ready because we weren't just in a posture of receiving a song from Deanna. We weren't just in a posture of showing up at Soul Center. We came to our community. We came all the way forward and we engaged the presence. This is what we were doing in meditation today. We talked about it. I kind of ushered it in a little bit in meditation, that when we sit in meditation, it's not simply to clear the mind or to get rid of stress or to relieve or have a break. Even those are some of the byproducts of meditation. We meditate so that we can have conscious communion with it, so that we can commune with the presence, so that we can set aside any of our ideas, any of our thoughts. We can even learn how to allow those thoughts to just move away, and so we can come into a greater awareness of it. So then when we know what it is, we know that when we're meditating, and I dropped some of these seeds during our meditation too. When we're meditating, we're connecting with love. When we're meditating, we're connecting with peace. When we're meditating, we're connecting with the creative force of the universe. And so then it can access us. And so when it accesses us, because we give its permission, because we'll hold its hand, then it can give us the things that are for us to do. To work on our loving, to work on how we can bring peace into the world, how we can elevate, how we can become more abundant, how we can be more joy, how we can heal ourselves, who we need to talk to, who we need to forgive, what we need to let go of, what we need to take on. Because if we're going to run to the ocean, it's an act of faith, right? Some of y'all can't swim, you know, but you think that, right? Like there's this other thing of running unabandoned. Like I totally had the picture of her nephew running to the ocean, and I'm totally looking at us running to our future, running to the future of Soul Center, running to the future of what America could really look like if it answers its promise, running to what it looks like to fulfill the calling on our lives. There's so much available there. And in the midst of that all, you guys, over the past couple of weeks, have been under the theme for this month, which is labor versus love. So I can't wait to get into that. When Jessica told me that, I was like, I love that. I'm going to eat that up. And then I just waited and waited and waited to figure out what Spirit wanted to say through me. And so today's topic today, at this hour, this moment, because later it might be something else. Today's topic is words, thoughts, and actions, like with a question mark at the end. Because a lot of what's going on in the world, a lot of what's going on in our lives, we have to take it, break it down, and kind of look at it piece by piece, because it can seem overwhelming. Somebody that's trying to bring peace into the world, wow, that seems so complicated. Somebody who's trying to get out of debt, that can seem so complicated. How do I get out of debt and then take care of my needs right now? Somebody that's trying to find the right relationship. Look at all these people. How can I find the right one? The one that's right, that works for me. We go through all of these things and it seems so complicated. And sometimes maybe it's because we have an idea of how we approach a thing. So we read a phrase like labor versus love, and initially the thought comes to me is comparison. Now, comparison is one of the biggest sins anybody can make. And I know that that's not a word we use a lot in the New Thought community, but I use the word because it gets our attention. And really, the writers of the Bible and those who have originally used the word sin were really clear about what they meant. When they talked about the word sin and the things that they referred to as sins, they simply were talking about missing the mark. How many of you have heard that before? Right? So there's just missing the mark. But man, how other people bludgeoned us with that word, right? They beat the mess out of us with sin. Oh my God! Woo! Some of us feel like, I haven't been a day without sin. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so, we just kind of go through it. You know that's funny. You kind of felt that way sometimes. And sometimes we make other people feel like that. So there's a movement in this idea of comparison. Now, it's important that we compare, and if we do look at things, it's to observe, not to create a more value out of one or the other. So as we look at the idea of labor versus love, it's essential to understand that it's not either or. It's an understanding of both. So it's like looking at a coin, right? So I've got a quarter, right? If I look at heads and I look at tails, which one is most valuable? Right? Is the head side more 25 cents and the tail side less than 25 cents? If I'm looking at the ridges, of the coin, am I suddenly 0 cents in my hand because I can't see that it's a quarter? No. In reality, what's going on in the world that we live in is that there's so much more to any one thing, right? So as we continue to look at something like labor, the work that we might put into, or the labor process that a woman goes through in birthing a child, or the labor movement, and we talk about people working together and how they develop their resources and they come together because they're doing the work. It's important also to consider the value of labor. There is something inherently valuable about the work that anyone does, about any of the work that you do. You must recognize that no matter what you do, we're not even talking about work. Don't couch labor in work. No matter what you do, there is inherent value in anything you give your time, talents, and gifts to. Right? That's how you decide whether or not you're going to take that salary or that job. That's how you decide whether or not you're going to give your time to doing the laundry or whether you're going to hire somebody else to do the laundry. I prefer hiring somebody else to do the laundry, one of my least favorite household chores. As you look at it, we also look at planting seeds as a laborious activity, right? When we harvest our food and when we're eating at the table, how often do you think about the labor that it took to bring this salad to your plate? How many people, how much sweat, how many hours, how much organization, how much planning to get that to you? And so we're talking about labor versus love, so let's spend some time talking about love. Because you don't have to love those things to do them, do you? There is an essential requirement of us as human beings to eat. We need food. So we know that somebody's going to have to labor in the fields to provide us with our food. And we're going to have to do something that's of inherent value so that we have resources so that we can purchase said food. Now, love is a thing of beauty. It means many different things to many different people. Some people love playing the guitar or the bass or the drums or the keyboard. Some people love singing and writing music. Some people love science and science fiction. People have a great desire for more and more of it. Some people love God and love the Spirit and love practicing. Some people love meditation. And for all of those things that I said that people love, some people don't like those specific things at all. Some people meditate, but they do not like meditating. Some people listen to guitar, but can you believe it, Jesse? They don't like guitar. That's just not their thing. Some people don't like music with words. They just prefer orchestral music. So there are all these different aspects of it, and none of them are absolutely the only thing. So when you look at labor versus love, you can take it deeper and realize that it's not either or. It's all of it. Because all of it exists somewhere in creation. So if Spirit decided that it's going to take some serious work to break up the fallow ground in this field, to bring the water to irrigate it, to then plant the seeds, to then allow time to pass, for the harvest to come up, and then for us to harvest it, there must be something inherently valuable to labor. There is certainly something inherently valuable to the labor of birthing a child. There is something completely transformative that happens to women when they have a child that men cannot manufacture. It is unique and particular to that aspect of birth. However, that same thing can be evoked by the work that a father puts into their child. It's a completely different angle to approach developing the same experience. But it's not the same, because there is a unique experience here that is being called forward. There is another unique experience over here that one must come to, right? So as we look at all of the different things, we get to the idea of our thoughts, our words, and our actions, right? So what's the most important of those three? Think about it for a moment. Is it what you say? Is it your word? Is your word the most important thing? Well, they say a lot of things about a person's word, right? They say if a person can't keep their word, the rest of them is meaningless. That's what some people say. I've got a whole crowd of people, I call them some people. The words are a contract. Some days you got a lawyer, it doesn't matter what that contract says, the lawyer can get you out of it. But what about the words people say to you? Sometimes they're like bricks. The kids say the things, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words, they never hurt me. It's probably one of the biggest lies told on the playground. That, and that the kids will grow up to be ninjas, right? Or star troopers. In reality, words are powerful. We know that as adults because we've had people say things to us that have made us feel amazing. And then we've had people say things to us that make us feel some other than amazing. Sometimes the words that people say to us evoke anger and rage. Sometimes the words we hear heal us. Sometimes the words of a song transform our experience of God. Sometimes the words that we say inherently are the thing that connects us to each other. And sometimes we don't have words, right? Sometimes our words fail us and we're breathless and wordless and in trauma, or we're in awe. Words have inherent value, but also a person's word can seem thin, flimsy, and worthless because you can't count on it. But that's words. What about thoughts? How do thoughts impact us? Well, we're in a new thought community, right? So we must put an inherent value upon thoughts. How's your thought life? How are your thoughts about your thoughts? One more time. How are your thoughts about your thoughts about your thoughts? Because am I the only one, or are there others in here that have felt the weight of our own thoughts? If you felt that experience, let me hear you. So often, the experience of depression, the experience of anxiety is pure thought. What are the thoughts that are running through our mind? Have you ever noticed that you think things that you don't think? What I mean by that is you do not initiate the thought. That there is a part and a mechanism that is active within you that is constantly thinking. And you're not initiating it, but it's continuing to go. It's just going and going and going and going. And then on top of that, then you start noticing it and you're like, why I don't really feel that way. That's not really my opinion about that person. That's not really how I feel about my government. That's not really how I feel about black people or white people or Asian people or gay people or straight people or trans people or military people or police officers. That's not how I really feel because I have relationships with those people. Because I actually have relationships with those people, I know that that's not how I feel. But I can see how the mechanism of thought is active. What do we do about that? How do you work on your own thoughts? You know how to work on your own word, right? You say something and you do it. But your thought life, we'll come back to it. Because we have one more. So we have our words, we have our thoughts, and we have our deeds or action. So I told you about them, right? They say that actions are more powerful than words. They probably haven't met or read Shakespeare. Because many of the words that Shakespeare has written, maybe they should have read James Baldwin. Because many of the words of James Baldwin, or maybe they should read the Talmud, since we're in the season of Rosh Hashanah. Maybe they should read even the Bible. Because these are all sets of words that have led to significant movements in creation, in history, in people's lives. But action is powerful. In this community, not specifically Soul Center, but in the community of New Thought, there's a phrase, some of you may have heard it, treat and move your feet. How many of you heard that phrase? So, here's what it means. In the New Thought community, which is birthed, a little history, is birthed out of the science of mind. What they do is prayer treatment, right? It's a treatment. It's not simply a prayer. It's a prayer treatment. And so when they say a treatment, I'd like for you to perform a treatment or do a treatment, they're just asking for prayer. It's just different language because they're getting out of the old idea of prayer as this begging and beseeching thing that we're trying to get some deity that's on high, that's sitting around kind of fiddling its thumbs like, oh, somebody called. What do you want me to do? That's not really what's happening. But a prayer treatment, it works sometimes, is the idea that we're treating our own consciousness. Because that's what prayer is really about. Prayer is really aligning ourselves. If I'm praying for Paulette, or Paulette is praying for me. She's holding me in the truth of my existence, and I am opening myself up because I want to align with the truth of my existence. So we're declaring the truth, not begging for something to happen. So that's what treatment is. So now, when you hear the phrase, treat and move my feet, doesn't that have a different meaning to you? So it means if you're going to pray about something, that's not the end of it, right? So you're praying for it, but there must be a corresponding action because it manifests as you. So your actions must be in alignment with the word, right? Oh, wait, you mean actions and words are related? Oh, yeah. Because that's the thing. We started with labor versus love, right? And we've separated this idea from our awareness that it's a versus thing, but it's a both and. Our labor and our love are two things that have all relation to us. Our expression of our labor is also integral with our expression of love. You can't act in one way and love in a way that is opposite that. It completely tears the fabric of anything that you would try to sew together. So when we look at our thoughts, our words, and our deeds, they all must interrelate. They all must be connected. Think of a man who is married and has children. He has a wife. You know this person, they exist in the world. And their vision of how they should show up is, I am a provider. I provide the food for my family. That is what they need. Now, often that has been the traditional role of man in Western society, is to provide and also to protect. However, there's much more to being a father or to being a man or to being a mother or to being a woman than just providing. Because a man whose words don't match what they provide is teaching their children and showing up in the world out of integrity. So what does that look like? I'm providing food to you, my children and my family, but I don't talk to you. I have nothing good to say to you. I'm not a communicator. My words are generally harsh and gruff and abrupt, so they don't match what my deeds are. My deeds are providing for you. You have a job. You have an employer. The employer says all of these wonderful things. Oh my God, I can't wait, Sharon, to get you in front of the board. They're going to be amazed by you. A month goes by. Yeah, I'm going to get you in front of the board. They're going to be amazed by you. I can't wait. 2 months goes by. Yeah, wait till the board gets a hold of you, Sharon. You're going to be amazed. You're the best employee we have. We're going to get you a promotion. We're going to get you a new car. We're going to get you everything. Month after month. This happens in corporate America all the time. It happens in our businesses all the time. And it has a particular feeling that comes along with it, right? There is something separate by the words of the supervisor or the manager and their actions. They never do what they actually or say they're going to do. So sweet talkers are people who say words all the time. They can, talk, an Eskimo into buying ice cubes, right? Eskimo don't need ice cubes. But what are the actions? And how do the actions mess up? How do they align? So now let's look at your personal life. Do your words, your thoughts, and your deeds align? And you, and only you, can do that kind of introspection. Only you can figure it out. The first thing that you have to do is be willing to take an honest assessment of ourselves. Now, I think the last time I was here, or the time before that, the theme of the month was forgiveness. So I was having a wonderful conversation with some friends about abundance. And we were talking about the idea, the principle that we talk about in the law of circulation, right? So the law of circulation is in principle, basically, that which you sow, so you also shall reap. But we are multidimensional beings. How many people understand that? Just nod your head that you understand that we're multidimensional beings. We're not just physical, right? We have something about us that feels as well, right? That is kind of beyond physical, because you can feel things without being touched, right? You can be touched from the mind. You can be touched from your thoughts, right? So all of these different ways to feel something. You're listening to music and you're touched by the music. You can say that it's the frequency and the vibration of the tones that are coming your way and how they enter in this harmonic frequency. But there also is an energy underneath, behind it all, that is resonating in the body and the cells and in the muscles and the organs of your body temple. So you get the goosebumps, and that's when you start to cry, you start feeling all kinds of things, or you just start really feeling excited. You feel stuff, right? But there is something more. So as we start looking at something more, and we recognize that we're multidimensional beings, and again, we're talking about this idea of forgiveness. I'm talking to my friend about this idea of plenitude and abundance. And so we start having a conversation about, well, how do people who are these horrible human beings, meaning by their actions, manifest so well? How is it that they have millions of dollars, yet they are involved in child slavery? How is it that they have $1 billion and they want to address immigrants in this horrible, abusive way? Not in a way of kindness and respect, because there's things to do for everything. But the approach to it is just, it has no heart. It has no compassion. It has no love. How is it that these people are manifesting and I'm sitting here struggling? It's a very sincere conversation that people are having all the time. The thing that I eventually brought into the conversation was, well, it's more than just the seeds that you sow. Everybody has seen by now that science is telling us more and more that God exists. How do we know that? One way is those wonderful science experiments they have with plants, right? So they have a plant in one room, they have a plant in another room, they play this kind of music for the plant, they play this kind of music for the plant. Or, instead of that, they speak words of affirmation, they speak words of encouragement for the plant. Grow, baby, grow. You're just magnificent. You little Paul, you little shrub. You're going to grow. And there's a correlation, because pardon me, Deborah. Deborah, you're horrible. You're never going to grow. You're just going to wither and die. Sorry. See, I love you too, Deborah. See, Paul doesn't love me. He didn't even say that. I said all those nice things of Paul. Nothing. Not helping Sharon. So look, they have science experiments that tell us this all the day. How many people are familiar with these types of things, right? So now I want you to bring the things that you know into the room, right? So you know this. Now when we start talking about abundance and plenitude and we recognize that we're multidimensional beings, we cannot ignore the other dimensions of our existence. So if we are struggling with forgiveness, and we have significant amounts of anger and rage, or hurt, or harm, or trauma in us, the ability to manifest in certain areas of our lives is going to be clogged up. It's going to be corroded. Because part of us is stopping up the flow. And much of it is unconscious. Much of it is looking at parental experiences, looking at childhood experiences, looking at trauma that people tried to gloss over when we were kids. Yes, you got thrown around and locked up in a room, but you're fine. You got a college degree. You're doing all right. No, there's still some healing that is being called forward, right? Because they don't know what our experience is like through the lens of our journey. And so when we look at ourselves as multidimensional beings and we recognize that, we actually then have the keys. We've been trying to get out of this room that we've been confined in. We've been confined in whatever limited idea or limited expression of our existence where we're looking for growth, plenitude, abundance, we're looking for healing, we're looking for transformation, we're looking for relationship, we're looking for more joy. But the keys to those things are locked up in the idea that we won't look at all the dimensions of our beingness. We will look at our thoughts, but we won't look at our deeds. We'll look at our deeds, but we won't look at our words. And if we look at our words, and we look at our thoughts, and we look at our deeds, we then can bring into our awareness that same thing we had about labor versus love. It's all God. that a scientist can be fascinated with something like cancer. Because it is fascinating that this process is happening on a cellular level. But nobody wants to talk about it that way. Because it comes with the trauma of loved ones who have felt like they've been taken too soon. When you look at the psychology of certain people that have certain dysfunctions and maladies, it can be fascinating from a psychological